If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, try to be full-time observer, joined by 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association, Jack Hirsch. Jack, let me just say this. I'll set you up real good. I'm very excited about this show because we're going to have on one of my favorite fighters. Probably, if I had to name my 10 favorite fighters of all time, I think Michael Spinx would be in that conversation, and he might make the cut. I think there's a case that he was at worst the second best fighter of the 80s and top 5 all-time great. He has a career that's unparalleled, and I'm excited to talk to him because, as you know, I sparred him 5 or 6 times at Frazier's Gym when he was beginning his career, like maybe his first 10 fights.
Michael is coming on at 7:15 this evening, but because he has some technical difficulty, we're just going to hear his voice tonight. We'll have him visually on another time, but he is going to come on 7:15 tonight. I got to tell you something funny, Frank. I was on the Sirius Radio today, a show you've been on with Randy Gordon and Jerry Cooney today.
Right.
And something dawned on me when we have the introduction, and I, reading my own book, all of a sudden I'm cracking up laughing because in 1973, Jerry Cooney won the New York Golden Glove sub-novice division middleweight. I competed sub-novice welterweight, and I told Jerry what a thrill it would have been had I gotten a chance to actually face him. We were one division away. That's why I always said,
You're kidding me.
And I got knocked out by Jerry Cooney. And then Jerry, being the gentleman Jerry Cooney, said, Jack, you fought me, you wouldn't have been here tonight to talk about it. You know?
Wait a second, Jack. You fought at what weight back then?
147, and Jerry was a middleweight at 100.
He was 165 or 56?
160 at the time. It was 160. Yeah, the weights were a little more traditional. Well, it was one weight class. There wasn't a junior class in between welterweight and middleweight. But all of a sudden, I'm thinking, darn it. Had I known what was going to become years ahead, I would have put on some weight, seen the organizers, and begged them to let me box Cooney. So I could have always said I boxed Jerry Cooney, and that would have been.
And that was 1973.
Three.
And I didn't fight in the Golden Gloves the first time until 76. I fought novice in 76, and then open in 77, 78, and 79.
But getting off that, Laterzo, I could tell. You're already kissing up at the beginning of the show, kissing up to Michael Spinx, because one of your best buddies in the gym was Dwight Muhammad Qawi, his main rival in the light heavyweight division, who he had the unification fight with. And Michael was kind of friends with Qawi. They were, in a way, they were friends. Like, how do I say it? I don't want to say lukewarm friends. They were rivals. But you could talk on this better than I can because you knew.
Well, they used to box each other a lot until they both got ranked. Then they stopped.
They stopped once they got ranked. Interesting.
Once they were both ranked, or maybe, I think Michael was ranked first, and once he became ranked, they didn't box that much anymore because they knew down the road they were probably going to meet.
Yeah. So. Which is interesting. I don't know how many other cases we could think of. Obviously, Ali and Holmes come to mind. Frazier and Holmes, Jim Jeffries and Jim Corbett.
Frazier and Norton.
Yeah, Frazier Norton. Well, Frazier and Norton never met in the ring. I'm saying the guys would later meet for real.
Okay.
How often these guys sparred? I don't mean 1 or 2 sparring sessions, but guys who sparred on a regular basis. That's what I'm talking
Shavers
about.
did that with Ali and Holmes.
Shavers and Ali Holmes.
Jimmy Young sparred. He sparred Ali. In fact, he and Ali did an exhibition at the Cherry Hill Arena in '71 after the fight of the century. In fact, I always forget this, and Russell remembers the third guy, but Ali boxed 3 guys that night. Benny Briscoe, Jimmy Young, I forget who the other fighter was.
Yeah, and and there's mixed feelings on that because Lennox Lewis said he doesn't recommend it. He's dead set against it because Lennox Lewis heard of cases where the Klitschko brothers would invite guys to their camp to kind of learn about them. And Lennox Lewis said, "I never go there. No way would I go to their camp to spar with them beforehand."
But Jack, sometimes you don't know. Remember, Lennox sparred Tyson a few times up in the Catskills before either guy had a big name.
Yes, Spinx is coming on. Just to remind new people who came on the show, it's 7:15 tonight because he has technical difficulty. We're going to be doing the audio, but I have my book on Spinx just came out. Michael Jinx Spinx. I wasn't sure what title to give it, but I thought, let me get to the point. Michael Jinx Spinx. It's the only book ever written on Michael Spinx alone. His biography, an authorized biography.
Let me see the back, Jack. Hold up a little more. Okay. They should be. How many pages is it, Jack?
This is in the paperback. I don't have the hardcover in front of me. It's like 280 pages.
That's pretty long, actually. That's a pretty good good amount of pages.
Yeah, I had no planned amount of pages, set beforehand. Michael Spinx, not an X, it's a KS at the end. Spinx. Michael Jinx Spinx. Okay, but regardless, everyone knows who Michael Spinx is.
Jack, I have to say this on your behalf. I think it's pretty, first of all, I commend you for taking on a project because I know it's a lot of work. But, the Spinx story, as I said to you before, in conversations on the show, whatever, Michael Spinx, because he was a quiet guy, Leon kind of stole the spotlight, and his style, you had to know what you were watching when you watched him box because he wasn't flashy like Leonard, and he was a little awkward sometimes. But because of his style and his personality, where he's such a quiet, laid-back guy, he gets lost in the crowd a little bit. But Jack, when you look at careers, it's could we really say that Sugar Ray Leonard had a better career than Michael Spinx? Did Marvin Hagler have a better career than Michael Spinx? Did Larry Holmes have a better career than Michael Spinx? You know what? I could make a case on both sides. Because if you look at Spinx's resume, 11 title fights at light heavyweight, 8 knockouts. And when you look at the guys he beat before he won the title and as champion, that stacks up really well with any light heavyweight in history.
And you can, and he had only one close fight, and it wasn't close on the official scorecards against Eddie Davis.
Eddie Davis made him look normal that night, but he still won.
Yeah, but that blip happens at one point to all great champions, either right before they win the title, right after. Ali had it with Doug Jones. Ali considered the greatest of all time. Won a very close decision over Doug Jones right before beating Sonny Liston. The 2 fights before that, and against Henry Cooper, he got knocked down and he was badly hurt, and it was, the bell then rang. Who knows?
The only difference, Jack, is that was way before Ali's prime, where Michael was in his prime when he fought Davis. But again, that is just a style matchup. We've talked about this before. Madrimov did, his style gave Crawford some problems. And you know what? Crawford, I think, clearly won the fight, but he didn't come away looking like an all-time great.
Right. That was Eddie Davis's Michael Spinx Terrence Crawford fight. What Madrimov meant to Crawford. Anyone watching Crawford with Madrimov is going to say Crawford would never beat Sugar Ray Leonard. He would.
But Jack, every great fighter has those guys.
They have those guys, absolutely. For whatever reason, they give them fits on a given night, and it happens with great teams. Frank, the most powerful teams have these games where they just barely get by against the team you think they would normally crush. It happens, but it's but you lived through the Michael Spinx era in more ways than when you contributed to the book. Thank you by talking to me during the Philly years, what went on in the gym, what you got to experience. And there were a wealth of personalities in Joe Frazier's gym. And Michael especially told me one funny story we should bring up to him. And you loved this too, and I loved it. The way he got on Joe Frazier's nerves. And Joe Frazier liked Michael a heck of a lot, but I guess Michael was kidding him a little too much. And before Michael knows it, he's in the ring with Frazier. And Michael's the light heavyweight champion. And Frazier's retired, supposedly washed up. And Michael says he's cracking up laughing, figuring he's going to handle Smoking Joe easy at that point. The bell rings and Frazier's after him throwing these mean left hooks. And Michael says, I'm running all around the ring. I'm thinking, darn it, Joe still got it. He could put me out with one of these left hooks. And he's running, just trying to survive. And even Michael was laughing about this, telling me good thing, he wasn't in shape.
I'll give you a funny story, too, with Joe Frazier and Michael Spinx. I don't know if I told you this. It's 1977 middleweight open semifinal. I'm fighting a guy, I think his name was Bruce Lifton. And Frazier happened to be in my corner that night with Val Colbert and George Benton. So he steps down and he was back a couple rows in the crowd during the rounds, and wherever Michael was sitting, he was blocking Frazier's view, and Joe's yelling, Spinx, take that damn cowboy hat off. I can't see my white boy.
Yeah, that was funny there. I mean, but that gym in Philadelphia was like a second home to Spinx, like a second home. And one of the chapters is too about the Philly years, his years in Philadelphia, and what is Spinx considered to be? Is he considered a St. Louis fighter? Is he a Philadelphia fighter? And what was fascinating was listening to the ring announcers where they would introduce him to, like the Kawi fight. I believe I'm just recalling what was in the book. He was announced as being from Philadelphia, yet on the screen it says St. Louis.
For Michael. Right. And the Kawi was Camden, New Jersey.
Well, that was easy with Kawi. I mean, they never announced him from Philadelphia. We have about 3 minutes, and then we're going to have Michael come on. Unfortunately, he's having technical difficulties, so we're going to have the audio. You're going to hear Michael's voice. We're going to talk about Michael's career. We're going to talk about Michael's fights. If you have a few seconds left over, Frank, I don't know what Michael even have an opinion on it. Who would have won between Lyle and Norton? We love polling, that. And Michael was a heavyweight champion, but
he's too even killed to speak on that.
One thing Michael doesn't have, he has a legacy as a light heavyweight and a legacy as a great fighter, an all-time great fighter, but he doesn't quite have a heavyweight legacy because he had 5 fights. And because of the Tyson loss, people are dismissive of him. And never mind that he won 2 fights against Larry Holmes, beat Jerry Cooney. I mean, those are good wins. And
well, Jack, think about this. Could Michael Spinx have defeated Jimmy Ellis at light heavyweight? I mean, at heavyweight? I think it's a 50-50 fight. Yeah. Could Michael Spinx, how about Michael Spinx and Jimmy Young at heavyweight? 50-50 fight. I think.
Well, someone posted Michael Spinx and Jerry Quarry. Style-wise, if Michael Spinx boxed him, does he beat Jerry Quarry?
I could, Jack, if you put a gun to my head, I have to ask myself, the question I have to ask myself is, do I think Jerry could stop Michael? And I don't think so. So now the fight's going to go the distance. I guess it all depends who was working hard that night. He would force Quarry to be the attacker, which might favor Michael. It's a tough fight.
Frank, I'm going to try to connect with Michael Spinx, so you could say anything for the time being.
Okay. Okay, guys. Jack's trying to connect with Michael. I don't think Michael does many interviews, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Waiting for all-time great legend Michael Spinx. Spinx Jinx. Jack didn't give me the word yet. I ordered the book, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. I still didn't get it yet, but I ordered it through a friend of mine.
They'll be back to me soon, I'm sure. I didn't pick up, but we had a 7:15. They're pretty dependable, so I should get a call at any moment.
Jack, the only problem was I ordered your book, but I can't write a review because I am such a technical misfit that I have
review. This shows the review. I'm getting. Hold on, Frank.
Anyhow, I'm such a technical idiot. I had a buddy of mine order the book because I've never purchased anything on Amazon. I have a buddy that buys everything for me. I just give him the money.
Hello, Michael. Michael.
Here he is. I'm putting him on speaker.
Mike. Mike, this is your biographer.
See that, Joe? We're a lot alike. So you can't write a review. I can't write a review. I think Jack's talking to Michael Spinx. Michael Spinx, title Michael Spinx, Michael Jinx Spinx on Amazon and Kindle. Okay. I did, J-Train. I did find a way to get it. I'm terrible at those things. First, Jack tells me to talk. Now he's telling me to shut up.
Michael, are you there, Mike?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, Michael? I'm here with my co-host, Frank Laterzo. This is your friendly biographer, Jack Hirsch. Say hello to Frank Laterzo, who, believe it or not, Michael, you sparred with years ago at Joe Frazier's gym. Say hello to Frank, Mike.
Hey.
Spinx Jinx, how are you, sir? I remember you back in the Frazier day when you used to pull up with the boom box bigger than anyone I ever saw in that 78 silver Corvette and used to spar me and Tex Cobb and Curtis Parker on the same day. You remember those days?
No, I can't remember those days.
Yeah, but that was some of your favorite times, Joe Frazier's gym, right, Michael?
Huh?
Okay, Michael, I mean, we were talking about you before the show. Do you think your career compared favorably against that of your Olympic teammate Sugar Ray Leonard? Did you think you had a career about as good as Sugar Ray Leonard?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do think so. What would you say the highlight of your career was? I know when you talked to me for the book, it was a great thrill beating Holmes, Kawi, winning the Olympic gold medal. It was hard to pick one over the other. But if push came to shove and you were forced to pick one over the other, for today, you could change your mind tomorrow. Every day you could change your mind on it. But this exact second, which might you pick?
Yeah. I don't think so.
But which one was it? The Olympic gold medal, the light heavyweight beating Kawi? What was the greater thrill, beating Kawi or Eddie Mustafa Muhammad?
Yeah, probably beating Braxton.
Yeah, I love the way you still call him Braxton because he was Dwight Braxton when you sparred with him. But I got to warn you, my co-host Frank Laterzo was good friends with Dwight Braxton uh, back in the day. He probably was rooting for Dwight Braxton to beat you, but my buddy Frank Laterzo here thinks you're one of the greatest fighters, pound for pound, he's ever seen.
Michael, do you remember those days when you and Braxton used to spar, and then once you became ranked, you stopped sparring each other because it almost turned into a war?
Yeah, I remember those days.
Who used
How about
to get the Go ahead, Frank.
Michael, how about the wars that Braxton and Jerry the Bull Martin used to have?
Yeah, I remember those wars that they had. Yeah.
Remember how when you used to spar Tex Cobb, you guys would touch gloves and he'd throw a round kick over your head?
Yeah, I remember.
The Tex Cop used to annoy you, Michael, the way he'd throw kicks at you.
Who was
that? Randall Tex Cop. Tex Cop, was he your best friend in the gym?
Yeah.
But you guys were from like different backgrounds, so how did you guys get to be such close friends? Because Frank knew Tex Cop really well, and the image Tex Cop had, I'm not saying it was like this, is that of a redneck. That's the image he portrayed. And you guys were really close.
Yeah, you're right.
And okay, what about your brother Leon? Tell us something about him.
Well, Leon's all right.
We know Leon was all right, Mike, but tell us a little more about Leon. Who would have won a fight between you and Leon in your primes? You against Leon, if that ever had to happen.
I probably would have beat Leon.
You didn't tell me that for the book. You told me Leon would have beaten you. Now, that's what you said for the book. You told me Leon would have won, but now you're saying you would have won. So now you're starting to care, Mike, whether you would have beaten guys. Now, who would have won between you and Bob Foster? Had the two of you met, at your best?
I'm not sure.
Oh, that's being modest, not being sure. Okay, who would have won between, and this, Frank talked about this the other week, who would have won at their best between Larry Holmes and Smoking Joe Frazier? Who would have won a fight?
I think it was Smoking Joe.
You think Smoking Joe? Okay.
Yep. He knew because Joe had this style. He would pressure Holmes, cut the ring off, work his body. Yeah, Joe had the style to beat a guy like Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure did.
Who was your favorite fighter growing up? Michael was a little under the weather today. Anyone listening, that's why, in part, we just have him on the phone. It says a lot for Michael to keep his obligation of coming on the show, because we announced he was coming on the show. He felt really under the weather and would have rather canceled out, but we know a number of people tuned in, and Michael didn't want to disappoint them.
Let me ask Michael something.
Sure, go ahead, Frank. You have him for the next few.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Michael, when you sit back and you think about your career, do you realize how accomplished you were? The fact that you fought in perhaps maybe the best light heavyweight era ever. You never lost to a light heavyweight. You had one really close call with Eddie Davis, and you still won that fight. And half of your fights were title fights. Do you ever sit back and think about what kind of a career it was? And it really is unparalleled on a lot of levels to a lot of other greats.
Not really.
Yeah.
You don't think about that, Michael? That's amazing. That blows me away because you're so accomplished.
Frank, let me just add this with Michael. With all the hours I spent with him, what struck me the most was his lack of ego. Most fighters are athletes. If you tell them someone was better, the competitive nature in them comes out even after they're retired. It could be in any sport. If you say to Magic Johnson, Steph Curry was better than you, a better point guard, Magic would speak up. But with Michael, he doesn't have an ego in that regard.
Yeah.
Michael, here's
So Michael
something.
was talking, Frank. What were
Go
you
ahead,
saying,
Mike.
Michael?
I probably would have beat him.
He said, I didn't hear him, Jack.
We probably
Michael,
would have beaten him.
right. Michael, let me ask you this. Wow. Okay. I have been telling people because I remember in the gym where you were really pressing for a Hagler fight and you were willing to meet him at a catch weight of, I think, 167 or so, but you said you wanted that money to fight Hagler. You didn't like that he was making his name off of fighting smaller guys. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, were you disappointed the fight with Hagler didn't come off? I mean, because I asked you comparisons, who you would have beaten, and I even brought up the name Roy Jones. And you said, you felt you would have beaten Roy Jones when Roy Jones was at his best.
Yeah, I think so.
Why do you think so?
Because of my style.
You think your style would have canceled out Roy's?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I know when we talked about the book about Jerry Cooney is saying he was a sick kid when he fought you. He had a substance abuse problem. He was living life in the fast lane. Jerry Cooney said the him who knocked out Ken Norton or even lost to Larry Holmes would have knocked you out in 2 rounds. You disagreed with the book. You said he's entitled to his opinion, but you felt your style would have canceled out his. Why did you say that?
Yeah, because I do.
Tell us a little more, Mike.
What's that?
Talk to us a little more. You're killing us with these short answers here, Mike. It's like quick knockouts. I need you to expand, talk a little more on any topic. Just a little more. Add a sentence, 1 sentence to everything else.
Yeah, I think more of a handler. More of a handler. I think he was more of a handler. I think my style would have beaten more of a handler. It would have beaten more of a handler, I believe.
Well, Marvin Hagler basically was a counterpuncher. I mean, people think, who moved well, people think of him as a move forward guy, but Frank, you have anything? Yeah.
Well, I think Michael's jab would have offset Hagler's, and I just think Michael could have gone into the trenches with him and won the exchanges because he's the bigger puncher. I mean, Hagler has a great chin, but I think Hagler would have been forced to break off the exchanges more. And I think Michael's, like you said, I think he would have shut Hagler's style down. Maybe it goes the distance, but I think Spinx's style would shut Hagler down. And if Hagler tried to push the fight, then he would play into Michael's hands.
Now,
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, obviously, you were very close with Butch Lewis during your career, and Butch Lewis was also very close with Smokin' Joe Frazier. They were like inseparable. Who would Butch have been rooting for to win between you and Joe Frazier if it didn't affect him business-wise?
Bush would have rooted for me.
He still would have rooted for you. Okay.
I think so.
You remember the story you told me for the book with Smokin' Joe in the gym when he wanted to teach you a lesson at Joe Frazier's gym when you were light heavyweight champion and you had the gloves on and with him and you thought you were going to handle him easy and you were laughing about it. And then all of a sudden he was chasing after you with these left hooks and had you running all over the ring. Do You remember telling me that story?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. What was going through your mind when Joe was after you throwing the left hooks? You were just trying to survive, right?
Yeah. I
Mike,
believe that. I believe that.
Michael,
Uh-huh.
Michael, one of my amateur fights, this was probably 1978. Joe Frazier was in my corner, and after the round was over, he sat down, and you happened to be at the fight, and he kept on yelling at you because the way you were sitting, he couldn't see. And he's there, Spinx, take off that damn cowboy hat. I want to see my white boy fight. And you started cracking up, and you took your hat off.
Yeah.
Now, when you fought Larry Holmes, okay, did you really think you were going to win the first fight? There's a difference between thinking you can win the fight and thinking you would win the fight.
Yeah, I think I was beat Larry.
But you thought you were going to win the first time, you fought him. The rematch was a controversial decision. It was, I mean, both fights were close, but there were a lot of people who thought Larry won the rematch. When you were waiting in the corner, for the decision to be announced after the second fight, I mean, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I think that my style was beat Larry.
No. Your style did match up well against Larry's. But how confident were you that you were going to get the decision in the rematch when you were waiting for the scores to be announced?
I just believed that.
You what, Mike? Talk to me a little more.
I believe that my style was beat Larry.
No, your style did beat Larry. Well, we know that. But the decisions in the fight, what would you say to someone who says to you they think Larry should have gotten the decisions, that he really won those fights? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I was told Larry,
Yeah, Michael is a little under the weather, and he was gracious enough to come on tonight. I want everyone to know. He was gracious enough to come on rather than cancel out. So we're just going to keep you on a few more minutes, Mike. No more than that. Frank, you have anything to ask?
Why were you told Michael? You told Jack that your favorite times were at Frazier's gym in the late 70s. Why was it? Was it the atmosphere there, the competition, the camaraderie with the guys, or it was just a great time of your life? What was it about that so much?
The 80s too. The 80s, not only 70s, the 80s.
Yeah, early 80s.
Yeah. 78 to 85. Okay, Mike. Okay, because Michael, we appreciate you coming on. I know you would have preferred not to tonight because you're really under the weather and just wanted to fulfill your obligation. So we don't want to torture and keep you on any longer, unless you have one last thing to say. To Frank Laterzo, wait 1 second, Michael. Frank and myself argue this all the time. Who would have won a fight between Ken Norton against Ron Lyle, the two of them at their best? Who would you have picked? Because those guys came just a little before you did.
Yeah, Ken Norton would have beat him.
Oh, you're saying Ken Norton would have beaten Ron Lyle?
Yeah.
Frank, you want to say anything to the champ about that? Who's told you Ken Norton would have beaten Ron Lyle, and he said it unhesitatingly.
I think he's wrong, but he also said Frazier would beat Holmes, and I agree with that.
Oh, okay. Okay, Michael, I hope you're satisfied with the book, that we worked on together. It's the official biography, the Spinx Jinx, I mean, the only book ever written on you. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be a biographer. And I hope it did you justice. I'm pretty sure it did, telling basically a life story, things that went on behind the scenes. And I appreciate the way you open up about things. And anyone who wants the book can get it through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kindle, however. Okay, so Mike, we're going to let you go. We want you back another time when you're up to it, when you're not under the weather. I knew you were under the weather for this show. That's why we only had your voice on. But we appreciate you coming on, even though we know how tired you are now and what a struggle it is to come on today. So thanks a lot, champ. Okay, I'll see you. We'll be talking. Take care. Bye.
Okay, good. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, Frank. Sometimes I wonder, is it better to let someone cancel out and not come to the party as opposed to making an appearance? Because I know you made a post, Frank. Thank you, Lord. We'll get that. Leave that up a little while, our producer, and we'll get to that.
Oh, you can't count him. He's a Ken Norton cheerleader. That doesn't count.
No. I just want to say,
Jack, he thinks Usyk's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Do you agree with that?
We are going to get, wait, let me just finish my last sentence and then you'll have the floor.
William and Paulie agrees. Wow.
But Michael, I knew was under the weather. He really was. And he wanted to cancel out. And I said, is there any way you could come on? I spoke to his rep because I know you posted and I know people are going to be listening and they'd be disappointed. So we got him. He was really tired, fatigued here, Michael. We got a little out of him. We got him to say that Smoking Joe would have beaten Larry Holmes at their best. And he should know. I mean, he was soft Frazier all the time. Of course, he fought Holmes a couple of times. But then he said he thinks Norton would have beaten Ron Lyle.
That doesn't count, Jack, because Norton is probably fresher in his mind than Ron Lyle is.
Wait. Ron Lyle had the biggest fight of his career, or one of the biggest, was 76. 75, right. Ali, 76 Foreman, and Michael was in the 76 Olympics. So
Michael wasn't thinking about Ron Lyle back then. He wasn't thinking about him. You can't claim that as a win, Jack. Okay, you look, you have one guy in your corner, Pom Lehman Paulie. That's it.
Lyman Paulie knows his stuff. I mean, that's undisputed. We asked Michael, and but what I liked about it, Michael didn't hesitate. The words just came right out.
You know why, Jack? I'll bet you he saw Norton fight 20 more times than he saw Lyle fight. But it doesn't matter. He's allowed to think what he wants. It's not a big deal. Jack, here's the thing that stands out in my mind a little bit. And it's great that you did the book. But I think this is something that other writers can take. Yeah, right, Lehman. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What planet? Jack, you do know I did a post on that, and nobody agreed with you on Lyman. Nobody.
Brian, our producer, I'm telling him to give Lyman Paulie unlimited say going forward.
No, I think we should ban. I think we should ban him for incompetence on that pick. Anyhow, Jack, here's what I was thinking. Michael's about 70 years old now. His career is what?
In July.
He'll be 70 in July. Okay. Yeah. So that's, to me, he's 70 years old. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And he hasn't fought since 1988. So that's almost 40 years. I wish you could have got to him a little sooner, because what I have found with these guys, Jack, all the years go by. And as we can see with Michael Spinx, I really believe him when he says he doesn't think about how accomplished his career was. I mean, if that were me and I could sit back in my easy chair and I could say, I never lost a fight at my original weight, my best weight. I was the first reigning light heavyweight champ to beat the reigning heavyweight champ, who not only was a reigning heavyweight champ, is an all-time great. And basically, I lost the last fight of my career when I was kind of looking for a payday, and I came up against a guy who was in his prime. Wrong style for me. not a big deal. But when you think about it, Jack, how many guys can say what Michael Spinks can say? I never lost at my ideal weight. I'm 11-0 in championship fights at light heavyweight. I'm 14-1 overall in title fights. Half of my career were title fights. I could box, I could punch, I could move. Never stopped at my best weight, and during one of the best eras ever.
Yeah, and I do a comparison at the end of the book, the last chapter. The last chapter of the book, I'll be honest, is fantasy land. And I put down, I'm
Well, you
playing
love that,
devil's-
Jack.
but
You do love that.
No, but I'm playing devil's advocate. So what I did, IBRO, the International Boxing Research Organization, they rate Michael Spinks the sixth greatest light heavyweight of all time. And I evaluate him against the top five, and I write down why he's a greater fighter than the five ahead of him, a greater light heavyweight. And one of them, for example, is going to be like Sam Langford, for example. And I put down the reason simple. Langford wasn't, exclusively a light heavyweight. Nat Fleischer rated him as a heavyweight. So that kind of eliminates that. I compare him to Archie Moore, who had the same number title defenses, but Archie Moore's was over a few years more. And one of Archie Moore's fights against Yvonne Durrell, he came desperately close to losing that one, two knocked down, 4 times in the first 2 rounds. And I'm just playing devil's advocate. Why comparing him as a light heavyweight to Gene Tunney, putting down, well, Spinks could hit a lot harder than Tunney, a lot harder puncher with the right hand. And it's just playing devil's advocate. That's the only chapter that doesn't exactly deal with reality. It's like playing a game in a sense. You can move
Jack,
things around how you want.
I have IBRO's ranking in front of me right now. Okay. So I want to see who the guys were they had ranked above Michael Spinks at light heavyweight. Okay. They had Archie, they had Ezra Charles, number 1, Archie Moore 2, Gene Tunney 3, Langford 4, and Foster 5. Okay, let's go down the list. Ezra Charles is one of the few guys, Jack, who probably fought even more great fighters than Michael Spinks. He won the heavyweight title. He could box. He could punch. He was durable. He had a lot more fights than Michael. I mean, if you're going to tell me that Michael Spinks ranks ahead of the Ezra Charles ranks ahead of Michael Spinks, I'm not going to have a problem with that as a light heavyweight. Okay, the only problem is he never won the title.
That was part of it too, what I write in the book here, taking a look. Wait, let me refer to my Ezra Charles. I'm looking at Archie Moore first. Let me get to Ezra Charles. Here goes. I'm putting down at the end to sum up. So what makes Spinks a better light heavyweight than Charles? And what I write in the book, I'm reading directly. He was slightly steadier, if less spectacular. Spinks could hit harder for one punch. The Spinks Jinx right hand parentheses packed more power than Charles's punches. Charles had a couple of fights too. After beating guys like Charlie Burley and Joey Maxim, in his prime, he lost back-to-back fights to Jimmy Bivens and Lloyd Marshall, too. But they fought so much, these guys.
But he also beat those guys, too, Jack.
Right, exactly. Charles was great. I mean, Charles was one of the all-time greats, but I'm playing devil's advocate.
How do you think that? Okay, so if you're going to go on accomplishment, that's pretty close. I mean, Spinks did win the title. Charles never got a shot at it. But if you're going to go head-to-head, I think that's a pretty close fight.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something that's interesting with IBRO. Yeah, I'm only talking within the division. Because if you look at the guy who's a couple of spots behind Spinks as light heavyweight, it's Harry Greb. Am I correct? At number 8?
Harry Greb is number 9. Spinx is number 6.
9. No one rates Harry Greb really as a light heavyweight, but he fought a lot of light heavyweight. We think of a middleweight in Harry Greb, right? No one thinks of him as a light heavyweight.
But he beat 5 or 6 light heavyweight champs, Jack.
Right, exactly.
And
But,
4 heavyweight champs.
Yeah, exactly. So you were going to, Archie Moore's kind of intriguing.
Same thing. Moore made about 10 defenses, won the title late. I mean, his resume is unquestioned too. It's like if Michael Spinks fought everybody Archie Moore fought, would his record be any different? I don't know. Who wins if they fight head to head? Moore's a good boxer, puncher, but Spinks has a good chin for, at 175. I mean, I don't know if Archie Moore beats the best Cowie. He might, but I don't know that he does. So, I mean, that's a toss-up. Gene Tunney's another one. That's a toss-up. That's tough.
Yeah. Well, Moore lost 3 times, 3 out of 3 to Ezra Charles, which is the tribute
yes,
to how
and
great
stopped in the
Charles
last
is.
one.
Right. But Moore's greatest accomplishment may have been winning 4 out of 5 against Harold Johnson, who was a great fighter.
And he beat Joey Maxim, I think, 4 straight times too.
Yeah, but Maxim
and Joey Maxim was a good fighter too. Jack, he was a good, not an all-time great, but I would say borderline outstanding. And if he fought in the Spinx era, he wouldn't be in over his head with anybody of that era. He may not win every time, but he wouldn't be in over his head.
But I write about this. So what makes Spinx a better light heavyweight than Moore? And once again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. And I write down, perhaps that answer can be narrowed down to one word: consistency. They had the same number of title defenses, but Spinx's were done over a period of 4 years, Moore's in 10. Moore also barely survived being knocked out by Yvonne Durrell in his title defense in 1958. Spinx was never legitimately knocked down as a light heavyweight. The one official knockdown when Cowie stepped on his foot, Larry Hazzard told me for the book, on reflection, he shouldn't have called it a knockdown. He shouldn't have called, and watching the tape of the fight again, after Spinx went down, he didn't jump up immediately. And that kind of gave Hazzard the green light to start counting. And it wound up being a knockdown. These one knockdowns in the career, we sort of have a Marvin Hagler, Juan Roldan getting kind of pushed down. Mayweather took a knee against I forgot the guy's name. Not Carlos Hernandez was the name.
And Zab Judah should have been credited with a knockdown too.
That was a legitimate knockdown.
Right, and they didn't call it.
Correct.
I'll tell you the guy that gives Spinx trouble, Jack, and he's ranked under Spinx, and I don't know if he wins, but if you look at his record, and it's another Philly guy, does Michael Spinx beat Tommy Loughran? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, could be, possibly. I don't know, but see, that's the thing with Spinx. That's why he's so high, Jack, because he has the accomplishments and he has this style. If you look at everybody on this list, Billy Conn, Greb, Jones, Fitzsimmons, Harold Johnson, John Henry Lewis, all those guys, he does have a way to beat them. And people forget, if he outboxed Larry Holmes, and he definitely outboxed him the first fight, who on that list is he in over his head against?
Yeah, but the problem, Frank, is, and I've been guilty of this myself, when I've asked people who they think would win against so-and-so, they say you can't judge different eras. And it's very hard to do. Spinx only had 32 fights. Had he been fighting
16 were championship fights, Jack. Half his career was 16 were title fights.
Could I tell you something that evens things out? And you never hear the old timers talk about it, about old time fighters. I mean, they did not have the amateur background that the guys later on would have. You take a guy like Vasily Lomachenko, who reported 300 amateur fights.
Golovkin, the same thing. The Bachelor, the same thing.
So they, in reality, have fought just as much as the old timers did if you count the amateur fights. And these great amateurs are fighting other great amateurs in international competition. So, but we tend to only look at pro fights and say, oh, the old timers, they fought 150 times compared to 35.
And Jack, there is something to be said for that, though. There is something to be said for that. But the thing that makes the comparison to me a little easier. Now, some guys are going to go, well, we don't have same day weigh-ins. But in 1954 or 1934, a light heavyweight was still 175 pounds, just like it is in 2026. Where the real difference comes in is the heavyweights. Tyson Fury, 270 pounds. Ali never fought somebody 270 that could box.
Yeah, but consider this: Usyk beat Fury twice.
Right, and that looks good. Right, exactly. That looks good, and that's what makes Usyk stand out, Jack, because he showed at 225 he was capable of beating an awkward boxer, mover, durable guy like Fury.
He weighed a little less than that, as I recall.
We're only a couple pounds. And then he beats a puncher like Joshua and Dubois, who were, 240, 250, and they were big guys, big punchers. So he showed that it doesn't matter who's in the other corner. He can adapt to their style. To me, Usyk is in trouble against swarmers that work the body, that come in low. Frazier, Tyson, and Marciano, guys like that.
Yeah.
And Lehman Paulie knows it, but won't admit it.
Yeah, and I write comparing him to Gene Tunney. And I write down what makes Spinx a better light heavyweight than Tunney? And I write down dominance. Spinx was more dominant in his victories than Tunney was in his. And in Tunney's series of fights against the great Harry Grip, he enjoyed a healthy weighted advantage, which was never the case with Spinx against any of the opponents he faced. Tunney had a respectable record of stopping opponents inside the distance, but was never regarded as a hard puncher. Spinx's power was superior. He could take an opponent out with a single punch, something Tunney was never known for. And if you need an example of Spinx's power, look at the Marvin Johnson fight.
He had a lot of those.
And let me tell you what Marvin Johnson did after getting knocked out by Spinx. He wins his next 16 fights and wins a world title. So he knocked out a peak Marvin Johnson
with one shot.
He won the title. One shot before he won the title. Now, if Marvin Johnson was one of his title defenses, it would look better. But what's the difference when it took place? See, it was
Jack,
that's very
and
impressive.
He beat a very, very good on top of his game Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. I mean, and if I recall right, he lost the first 4 rounds of that fight, and then he came on and basically swept the last 10.
Oh, no. In the first fight, I had Mustafa Muhammad up 6 rounds to 4 after 10 rounds, 96-94.
Right.
Spinx won the last 5 rounds and knocked Mustafa down in round 12.
Right. With a right hand.
Yeah.
So, Jack, but that's my case. Eddie got out to a really early lead. So after 6 rounds, you had Mustafa ahead 6-4, and that's what I'm saying. I think he won the first 4 rounds, and then Spinx figured him out and came on. And you know what else he doesn't get credit for, Jack? People don't realize to this day, and I'm not just saying this because I used to spar him and I drove him to the gym sometimes, and we used to run sometimes. They don't realize what a beast Kwawi was. And when he fought Spinx, he was shredded, in great shape, and knew that was a legacy fight for both of them. And Michael outboxed him that night. I mean, who else could have boxed Kwawi the way Spinx did that night? Because that was the only way he was going to beat him. Even though he might be the single shot bigger puncher, he was not going to beat him in a slugfest, because that's how Dwight fights. But I don't think Spinx back hit the rope 5 times in that fight. The way his foot movement, the way he danced and circled and just controlled it with the jab. He was masterful that night, and he had a lot of things on his mind going into the ring.
Yeah. For the people who forget, his common-in-law wife got killed in an accident a couple of months before the fight. So that had to be rough to go through the training and all that. This is an interesting thing, Frank. People don't realize, and I talk about it in the book. Spinx lost 1 fight. He wasn't offered a rematch with Tyson, understandably so. No one wanted to see a rematch. Spinx feels he would have lost the rematch to Tyson, he told me for the book, but he feels he would have done better. He wouldn't have been wiped out quick. He would have known what to do to keep away from a more been in better form, but he feels, Tyson would have beaten him in the rematch. He was telling honestly, but he wasn't offered a rematch the way other heavyweight champions were, like Floyd Patterson with Liston, who suffered a similar defeat. But the three guys he won his titles off, they were all offered rematches, and the only one who took it was Larry Holmes. They had a second fight. Mustafa Muhammad, they had the problem in the scales for the rematch.
It was canceled the day of the fight.
I read a whole chapter on that. And Dwight Muhammad Qawi was in training for the rematch in Reno and pulled out, like 3 weeks before because he had an injury. Because Qawi also felt he went, and I want your opinion on this, into the first fight.
He had a cold.
Physically. And
he said he had a cold.
Yeah. And Qawi couldn't stand Spinx promoter Butch Lewis. Lewis visited the gym that Qawi was training at, and Qawi kicked the spit bucket and got it all over Lewis, for showing up. And I also interviewed Rock Newman. He's known as Riddick Bowe's manager primarily, but he
started Qawi.
Right, and he also worked for Butch Lewis, so he knew Michael Spinx really well, too.
Qawi, Jack, is a guy, and look, I like Dwight, but the two guys that he had the hardest time with, and if you think about it, they're the two guys that beat him in his biggest fights. He always had an issue about the Spinx fight, and he swears that Evander Holyfield cheated in both their fights. He never accepted that. Yeah, he said Qawi said that Holyfield was on roids in the second fight. He goes, his punch was twice as hard in the second fight compared to the first fight a year and a half earlier.
Well, we've heard enough people, talk that way in regards to Evander. I can't comment on that.
Right, and you know how fighters are; they can justify anything.
Tyson, Spinx went on Vlad TV, and he was talking about Tyson being on steroids. And he meant that he heard all the talk about it, and he gave an official statement for the book as far as Tyson, being on steroids, so on.
Jack, think about this. Here's how I compare the Tyson Spinx fight. To me, that is Bob Foster and Joe Frazier. It was a bad style matchup. Joe Frazier mutilated Foster. Foster went 8 rounds with Ali. Tyson mutilated Spinx, but yet probably got the better Holmes in the 30 rounds they fought. It's all styles.
But this is a funny thing. We agree Spinx never could have beaten the best version of Tyson. It wasn't a good style matchup. Can you imagine Bob Foster had to fight Joe Frazier every month for years, and Spinx had to fight Tyson every month for years? Who's going to break through first and win? Probably Spinx with Tyson would get a decision sooner than Foster with Frazier.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But what's interesting too, he knew, when Michael was talking about Holmes, for the book, he thought Holmes was a great fighter, and he thought Holmes's jab was absolutely awesome. He told me it hurt him, that jab. It was hard. Holmes's jab wasn't only quick and snappy. He was telling me it was hard. The Larry Holmes jab.
Did he ever say, Jack, that he wanted to get revenge because of the way Holmes beat Leon?
Yeah, he did. He said it wasn't so much personal that he disliked Larry, but he wanted to get back at him, for beating his brother. So that was kind of a motivation.
Michael said that if he and Leon fought, he would have beat Leon. Michael's clearly the better fighter.
For the book. He did not say that for the book. Just the opposite. He told me Leon would have won.
I think so too. I think Leon actually had the style to bother Michael, even though Michael was clearly a better fighter.
His brother Leon, we only have a minute, but Leon is his idol. His own brother is his all-time favorite fighter, Leon. Yeah.
Jack, Leon was rushed. It's a shame because the night that Leon fought Ali, there were probably 6 heavyweights in the world that could have beat Ali that night, but Leon got the shot, and because he beat the man, he was elevated to a status that he wasn't ready for in the ring and out of the ring, and he basically came apart after that.
Yeah, good analysis, Frank. Okay, a lot of fun, Frank. We'll see everyone next week. Good show like normally. like normal.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week. Jack, I hope my I don't mute when we go off the air. See you guys later.